Hi guys, this lecture is on Professor Ruiz's General Essay Guide for 101. So this is just a general kind of overview of essays. It's not meant to be very specific, but it should hopefully give you some idea of what I'm looking for and really what any college professor is looking for when it comes to an essay. So the first thing is, what do essays do? Very simply, they prove something to be true. They prove an argument of some variety to be true. Now, this argument can be as complex as, what role does death play in Creeley's poems? Or it could be as simple as, which is better, Coke or Pepsi? But in general, an essay needs to be focused on proving that something is in fact true. And if your essay is not doing that, it's not really an essay. So again, just describing what happens, just summarizing what's going on, that's not what essays do. Essays are focused on you, the writer, presenting something to be true, and then proving why that thing is true. So how do we do this? Well, there are three basic components to an essay. There's the introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. And they all kind of do different things. So the first, which every essay should start with, is an introduction. An introduction has three kind of jobs. It's a roadmap it's assigned for an essay, and its three jobs are to provide the argument of the essay, which is what the thesis statement is, right? The thesis statement is your argument for your entire essay summed up in one single sentence. It will also provide kind of a general overview of the primary sources you're using in your essay. So again, every essay is built upon some kind of evidence, whether that be looking at different laws, looking at a novel, a poem, a movie, doesn't matter. You are building your argument off of some kind of evidence, not just you talking. You need to introduce your primary sources. This means what are you studying that you are actually building your ideas off of? You need to introduce them. So for like novels, that would be, what's the general plot? This should only be 2 or 3 sentences, but there should be some kind of idea of what is the general plot, what happens, who are the main characters, who wrote it, that kind of basic information. Again, not for pages, a couple of sentences is all you need. Then finally, you also have to outline your general topic. Again, arguments exist in context to certain ideas and topics. This is where you're kind of introducing what in general is your paper dealing with. So if you're writing about a law, it might be dealing with concepts of law. It might be about like the civil rights era and the changes in laws there. If you're writing about like Creeley's poems, the topic might be about generations and what's a millennial and what do millennials see in the world that's different than others. But in general, your introduction should be giving a brief, again, 3-4 sentences overview of what the general topic of the essay is. Body paragraphs are much more focused. They are very specific, and they're also the most common in your essay. Body paragraphs make up the bulk of your essay, and they're really where you're actually proving what is true. And they have one job: prove one premise of your argument to be true. Just one. So again, this is taking part of your thesis and proving just one single piece of your argument to be true. And it does in kind of 3 steps. The first is to summarize what your position is, right? This is what topic sentences are for, and this is where you kind of establish, this is what I'm going to argue. This is what I'm going to say is true. Then you provide evidence. You have to provide some kind of concrete evidence of why what you think is true. So this might be a quote from a movie, a book, a novel. This might be a section of law. This might be a survey, some statistical data, whatever. But you are going to be using some kind of concrete, real evidence, not just because you said so, not just because I read this, but specifically a very specific piece of information that you can build your argument off of. And so evidence are kind of the heart of a body paragraph. You shouldn't have too much. You don't want to overquote, but you do need at least one piece of evidence per body paragraph. Finally, and this is the majority of the body paragraph, is analysis. It's not just enough to say, this is what I'm proving, and then this is why I think it with some evidence. It's, this is how the evidence actually proves what I think is true. That's what analysis is for. When you analyze, you take your piece of evidence and you actually go through it and you show why does that quote prove what you think. If you have a quote like a piece of datum that says, I don't know, 3 out of 4 people like dogs more than cats, whatever it might be. Why does that prove your position that cats are a better choice for pets than dogs? Why does that prove that maybe dogs are better than cats? Why does that prove most people don't know what they're talking about? Whatever the case may be, you need to actually analyze evidence. Evidence does not speak for you. Evidence does not make you right. Your analysis is what makes you right. You need to be focused on not just what is true, but why is it true? How is it true? And that's what analysis does. Next is the conclusion. The conclusion is the very last paragraph of your essay, and it's often overlooked. But a good conclusion does two things. It briefly summarizes your argument. What did you say is true? How did you prove it? But more importantly, it takes your argument and expands it to make a bigger observation about the world. Should we change how we behave or act? Should we institute new laws? Should we repeal laws? Should we change the way we think or see the world? Your conclusion actually says, why does your essay matter? Why is your essay important? That's what you need to be thinking about with the conclusion. It's not just a couple sentences long. It should actually really explain, why is your essay important? Why is your argument important to the bigger picture? So that's kind of the general overview of what essays are. But let's look at a couple of mistakes that again, as a writing professor, what do I see very commonly and what should you avoid? So number one is writing book reports. No college class should ever ask you to just summarize what happens in a book, a movie, etc. Don't ever just focus on summary. Don't ever just focus on what is happening, what is going on, who did what. Focus on why it matters, why it proves something to be true. Again, summary is the least important part of your essay. Never assume your reader is your professor. Don't talk about characters as if you expect the reader to know who that character is. Always introduce yourself, always introduce your sources, introduce information. If you're talking about the character of Kaylee from Scott Newcreeley's poetry, please make sure if it's the first time you ever mention Kaylee, you actually explain who she is. Number three, and this is a big one, is don't write articles. This is the most common kind of writing you've probably been exposed to, especially if you read the internet a lot. And articles only have one goal. They tell the reader what the author thinks. But a lot of 99.9% of articles really only do that. They don't explain why it's true or how it's true. Simply, this is what I believe, this is what I feel, this is what I see. Don't write articles. Don't just focus on what you think, or what you think, what you feel. Focus on explaining why something is true. And that requires, again, to engage evidence and analyze. Read the assignment. I know it seems simple, but you'd be surprised how many students turn in what they think is a good essay and get a poor grade because they didn't really read the assignment closely. Make sure that you read the assignment 4 or 5 times, a couple of times before you even start pre-writing, read it again once you really start getting into it, and then read it 2 or 3 times after you finish to make sure that you're doing what you're being asked to do. A lot of professors give very specific instructions. I know I do on occasion. So make sure that you are, again, well aware of what you're being asked to do. And then number 5, please seek help. One of the biggest mistakes students make is they don't ask for help. If you're not sure what to do with your essay, ask me. If you're not sure if your essay is going in the right direction, ask me. If you're not sure what the thesis statement should be, ask me. Right? I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. So please seek help. And maybe go to the writing center if you have a private tutor, or maybe you have a friend you study with, whatever it may be. Always seek help. It's okay to have questions. That's a good thing. That means you're thinking, and that means you're trying to learn. The only way you're going to learn, though, is if you get those questions answered. And then number 6, which is the most common and the biggest mistake people make, and again is sadly the most common, is not editing. Essays are not good the first time you write them. Nothing I write is good the first time I write it. Make sure to take your time, edit, go through, look for grammar mistakes that you can identify, read through the work, even little things like make sure you're italicizing titles, make sure that you're actually spelling characters' names correctly, authors' names correctly. Take the time to edit your work. If it takes you 6 hours to write a first draft, you should be spending 12 hours editing it, asking good questions, and actually trying to make the essay as clean as possible. Make sure to polish. Lastly, please, please, please start immediately. A lot of students like to wait until it's the weekend before something is due, and that means you don't have time to edit. It means you don't have time to ask for help. It means you don't have time to do a lot of things except finish a first draft. Never turn in a first draft. Start immediately. Make sure to work on it the day you get it. Start pre-writing. Start thinking of ideas. If it's based on a book that you're reading or poems, make sure you're reading with the essay in mind, so you know what to be looking for and what to engage with. So again, these are kind of the general essay overview. You will be quizzed on this. Make sure you've listened to this and you've read through the material as well. And again, remember kind of the big four qualities of a successful student: due diligence, grit, mindfulness, and specificity. So I will talk to you guys again soon, so take care. Bye.